Hey everybody, it's Leslie. So today I'm going to be doing a video on the 10 things that you should know when you're disabled. Kind of like if I was talking to myself when I first got diagnosed, this is what I would say. So, number one, let's see. If I look down, it's because I'm reading from notes. So, number one, shut up and take the damn wheelchair. I mean, sometimes you have to put your pride aside because you need it, and accepting that you have the disease is a huge part. And that's number two. Realize that if you're chronically ill, you're chronically ill. And trying to reject that idea, trying to pretend like it's not like it doesn't happen, it's not going to change anything. It's just going to make you more painful, have more pain and more suffering. And you're doing it to yourself. Number three, if the life plan that you had worked out before you got diagnosed doesn't work anymore, change your life plan. Don't sit there and cry about how things have changed and you don't know what to do. Examine what you want to do and make it so you can do it from home. If you can't leave your house, if you are in pain constantly and you can't write, get a dictator and do it on the computer. If you have a manual labor job, maybe go back to school, find funding from the state you live in, or disability, or anything. There's actually programs in the state that I live in where if you're disabled, they'll put you through school to find a career that will actually help you in the long run so that they no longer have to, support you. And they're more willing to find a career that will help, in your lifestyle. I don't know, if you're a chef, maybe find a way to sit down while you cook if you have a chronic illness that fatigue is really involved in. If you have arthritis like me and your hands are a problem, search for different ways to do things. I'm a writer, and instead of typing on the computer, sometimes I dictate. Sometimes I type instead of writing because it's easier. Also, accept the fact that maybe if you're a teacher, you're going to have to teach online. Or maybe if you're a college student and you're 18 and you're fixing to go off to college like me, suddenly you realize you're not going off to college. Maybe you're just going to do it online. And truthfully, there is nothing wrong with that. That is completely fine. And you do what you have to do because there is no manual on life. It is not a race. Just do what gets you by. And that moves on to my second point. If you have to give up, it's not giving up. It's realizing that you can't do something and then readjust your priorities and then move on. But having a pity party, that's not always a bad thing. Sometimes you just have to mourn whatever you've lost. I know that when I had my first hip replacement, I had to mourn my hip. I mean, I know that it sounds crazy, it's a bone, but I had to literally say goodbye to this piece of my body that they were going to cut out, And then when I got my new hip, it was this feeling almost like I failed, like I was born with this hip and I failed to keep it healthy. But then I had to realize that, I did not do this to myself. It was done to me. And then when I had my second hip replacement, actually 4 weeks ago. And that one, it was hard because I knew what I was in for. It was hard because I knew how much it was going to hurt, and I had to mourn. I had to finally admit it that I was having another hip replacement, because when I had the first one, I was so in denial about it that I was not going to have another replacement, but I had to accept it. So, if you're in the position of having a joint replaced or a surgery, accept that there is a mourning process. They're taking something out of your body and replacing it with something man-made. They're taking a bit of you out and putting something that you don't know in you. So, that is very scary. And I would like to say one thing. If you are having a joint replacement or any kind of surgery, do not, and I repeat, do not go on the internet and watch the live surgery. I did that, and I threw up for 3 hours afterwards. And I was so terrified that I almost shit my pants. So if you're having a joint replacement or a surgery or any kind of thing where you're going to be asleep for it and you don't know what's happening, ask the doctor to explain the surgery and get, vocal telling about it, but do not, I repeat, do not watch any kind of video on YouTube, because there is blood and there is knives and there is a saw, and it will scare you and you will be terrified. You'll be hiding under your bed for a month. So I will be doing a video on the whole hip replacement, and hospitalization on that. So if you want to know about that, I will give you a run through of my experience twice, because I've had 2 hip replacements. Okay, so next one, number 5. Realize that asking for help is not giving in. For me, I'm a very prideful person, and I know that is probably a bad thing. I can do it myself, and I can probably do it better than you. That's my basic instinct. I'm that girl in the lab that you get as a lab partner, and she won't let you do anything because she's afraid you won't do it right. That's me. So having this disease take over my life was kind of like, suddenly I have control over nothing. I can't get my own meals. My mom has to do it. I can't do this. My mom has to do it. I can't do it. I can't even put my own socks on. I have to ask her to do it because I can't reach my own feet. I can't bend my hips like that because I just had surgery. So, and also having a shower, you don't realize how integral that is until you have to sit down in a chair and have your mother wash your hair for you. It's sort of humiliating because it feels like suddenly this thing that you were supposed to do, self-sufficiency, goes out the window. But also you have to realize that you have to survive, and the only way you can survive is by letting people help you. Asking for help is not admitting that your disease has won. It's admitting that sometimes asking for help will help you in the long run, because would you rather ask for help with something or feel so sick later that you sleep for 10 hours? It's the way off. Whatever chronic illness you have, you're going to have help. And if you have a primary caregiver, thank God for them, and make sure that they know you love them and that you appreciate them, because my mom, I would not exist without my mother. I would have died a long time ago. So, and that is number 6, is that I don't think you truly understand this until you are a disabled person. If you pay for a nurse, or if you have, a family member or a friend who takes on that responsibility of helping you, that primary caregiver, it's basically like being a child. I'm fixing to be 18 in 2 weeks. And that feeling of, being 18, I've been waiting for that freedom, that, suddenly I'm an adult, that legally adult. But suddenly I had to realize that, I may be an adult, but I still have to have someone care for me. I still have to have my mother. And, having my mom around is probably the best thing that, ever could have happened to me, because I have an amazing mom, and she doesn't judge me. She doesn't pity me. She helps, and it's amazing. So I feel like I should say to you that primary caregiver that's helping you, if it's your spouse or your sibling or your parent or your grandparent or your child or whoever it may be that's helping you, just make sure that they know how much you appreciate it, because it can be tiring and it can be very, hard to be the caregiver. I've seen my mom and I've seen her struggles, and I know that I'll never understand it because I can't see it from her side, but I do know that I constantly tell her how much I love her and how much I appreciate her. And that she's always telling me that, when I ask her to do something and she gets up and she's got that look that, it's not that she's mad at me, it's just that she's lazy, and she's constantly telling me, I'm lazy, I never said I wasn't, but it doesn't mean I don't love you, and it doesn't mean that I don't want to help you. And that's one more thing. If you have a primary caregiver, realize that if they are your primary caregiver, you're going to see them a lot. You're going to be with them a lot. And realize that if you see these sudden, these facial expressions, like you think they resent you and they hate you and, oh, they're mad at you, it's probably that you've just been with them for so long and that you rely on them so much that you're just so afraid that they're going to start resenting you that you're putting that on them. It's not them, it's you. You're seeing that. So just be mindful that, it's not always you're seeing. Sometimes you see things that aren't there because you're insecure. At least that's my experience. Okay, the next one is try your best to figure out things that you can do on your own. Like I had an occupational therapist come and tell me, if you have a problem with fatigue, if that's your illness, if you want to go in the kitchen and get water, instead of picking up the jug, drag the jug on the counter. Instead of bending down to get something, have a reacher. They gave me this really awesome reacher at the hospital, and those things are gold. Even if you aren't disabled, those things are awesome. And also, don't overdo it. That's another thing. Examine what you want to do in a day and realize that if you do one thing, you may not be able to do another, and weigh, realize which one is more important, this or that. Because learning to weigh things and learning to realize that if you go out to, wherever you want to go, when you come back, you're going to the bed. You're sleeping. At least that's my experience with my disease. Another thing, learn to talk to doctors. Learn how, first of all, you have to kind of learn their jargon, learn their speech, because, when you go into the medical field, when you're put in it as a patient, you kind of have to pick up the things on your own, like the blood panels and, the different tests and the MRIs and the, with contrast, and are you allergic to contrast, and do you know this and that, and do your veins blow? Do you have good veins? Are there hard veins? Are they, there's a lot of stuff that you have to pick up, that you have to know, because you don't want to be an idiot sitting there going, what are you doing? And plus, on the 15th time you've had something done, you know it better than the person who's doing it to you. So, I just think it's a big part of being disabled and sick, chronically ill, is that you have to do research. You have to know what the doctor's talking about. And also, you have to advocate for yourself. You have to know what you want, and you have to be your own advocate, because no one else will. That is something I have desperately learned, and it was not fun, because I've realized that there are doctors that will look at you and they feel no pity because they don't know you. You're just another person in their office. They've had 10 others that day, and they don't know your pain. They don't know that you cry at night because you're in so much pain. They don't know all the things that you want to tell them. You have to look them in the eye, and you have to tell them what you need. And that, if they can't give it to you, you'll find someone else that can. And there's another thing. You will not find one doctor that will cure you, that will help you. You're going to have to find a lot of non-contenders before you find the one that's going to help. It's going to be a lot of going to doctor's appointments, and a lot of blood draws, and a lot of saying the exact same thing 50 times over and over. So much so that you have it down to like a rhythm. Your story from diagnosis to this, from this to this to this, and here's my blood work, and I know this, and the last tests I had done was on this date. And suddenly you know dates in your heads, like you can rattle off crap that you never thought you would. And that's important also. I think having like a health journal. I have a health journal, and knowing what your health is, because you have to take initiative. You have to be able, when you go to the doctor's appointments and they're asking you these questions, you can't just not know. You have to answer them, because they're asking you because they need to know. And if you don't know, then why are you there? Because you're paying them money. So get the most out of your doctor's visits. Okay, and then remember what matters. Remember what you want out of life, and also remember that if you have a chronic illness, this is going to be a lifetime struggle, and that every time you feel like giving up, realize that this may be a flare-up. It may be an acute episode, and it may be gone in 24 hours or 48 hours, or it's not going to last forever. And trust me, I know that you hear that so many times from so many people, but this is coming from somebody like you, somebody who has an illness. And I can tell you that it does not last. I have had those moments when you just want to stop existing, because the pain is just so overwhelming. But if you hold on, if you just hold on for a little while longer, it gets better. And then you find yourself, in a place that's not so bad. And I know not so bad is probably not the best term of, let's do this, but it's the truth. So I hope that you get something out of this video if you've been recently diagnosed, or even if you've been a long-term dealer with chronic illnesses. I'm going to start dedicating this channel to my illness and dealing with it and trying to help other people who are dealing with it. So if you have any advice to people who are dealing with chronic illnesses, please leave it in the comments. And if you like what you see, subscribe and share it with anyone you know who is chronically ill. And I will be doing more videos soon. Thanks for watching.